In this lesson, we'll be talking about some professions that need forensics, computer forensics specifically. So as we're going through these lessons, you may be wondering, so this is all really cool and I'm learning a lot of interesting stuff, but how is it going to benefit me in a practical fashion? There are a number of professions that use or can use the skills of a good forensic investigator, and it doesn't always have to do with computer forensics in terms of what forensics really is, which is answering questions of a legal nature. So the skills that are needed by a good forensic examiner are useful for a wide variety of purposes. Good forensics analysts or investigators have pretty wide knowledge in terms of the systems and the applications that they use. So data analysis is one of the things that a forensic investigator is going to be performing. There are a couple of jobs, there are several jobs actually, that somebody who is skilled at doing data analysis might be involved with. Of course, being a consultant, you may have need to use data analysis, and data recovery specialists need to understand the same types of thing that forensic investigators understand. Data recovery specialists are the people who you might send your hard drive off to after a disk failure. They need to understand the structures and layout of disks in a similar way to the way a good forensic investigator needs to understand the same sorts of things in order to find hidden data or figure out where things may be stored in order to recover it for the purposes of the trial. By the same token, data recovery specialists need to have the same sort of knowledge. Forensic investigators may get involved with looking at malware for a variety of reasons in the case of a trial against somebody who may have actually written a piece of malware. A forensic investigator may be called in to see what the malware actually does and the impact it might have on a computer system. So a forensic investigator should probably have a pretty good understanding of how malware works, and specifically the changes to the operating system and the file system. Now, forensic investigators are not the only people who deal with malware. Any of the antivirus companies would have need for malware analysts who would have the same sorts of skill sets with regards to malware that a good forensic investigator may have. And again, this is just one piece of the type of skills that a good forensic investigator would have. But this one particular skill has application in other professions, similar to the other skills that we have been talking about and will be talking about. Network expert. A forensic investigator would probably have to have a pretty good understanding of networking protocols, which isn't to say that forensic investigators may not be more familiar with the system side and may not deal as much with the networking aspect of it. But sometimes there are cases where you would need to know networking in order to be able to look at what's going on a system. And so you got to have a pretty good understanding of networking protocols. You should probably have a pretty good expertise in looking at traffic flows and an ability to look at packet captures and understand them. Those sorts of skills translate pretty well to a wide variety of jobs in terms of network administrator, network engineer, network architect. These types of skills are a good foundation for those types of jobs. And again, these are the types of skills that a good forensic investigator probably needs to have in order to do the job from a complete standpoint and being able to handle just about any investigation that comes along. Senior systems administrator would need a knowledge of an operating system or multiple operating systems, maybe expertise at looking at logs and changes in files. Same thing with a forensic investigator. Knowledge at finding hidden data, from hidden partitions to hidden files, that knowing where data is in the system and where it may be found is something that a senior systems administrator might need to know or should need to know. So again, a good set of skills here for a forensic investigator that apply pretty well to a senior systems administrator. And a good senior systems administrator would also have a decent understanding of networking as well, if not some of the other components that we'll be talking about. So a deep knowledge is required, and a pretty broad knowledge as well. A wide variety of skills are needed for a good forensic investigator. You've got to know a good amount of a lot of different things. A good forensic investigator isn't somebody who just launches an automated piece of software like EnCase, pushes a few buttons, generates a report, and collects their big paycheck. It's not really how it works. The automated tools are pretty good, but you've got to have a good understanding of what those tools are doing and where you are going to follow up by hand once those automated tools that you may be using have done their job. You need to be able to verify the findings that are there and know all about that data, particularly if you are going to be an expert witness and brought into a trial situation. You're not going to do well on the stand saying, well, I know how to run EnCase and I know how to push the buttons and here's the report that got spit out. So there's lots of job possibilities, even outside being a forensic investigator, once you've learned these skills and have a good foundation in these variety of skills that we'll be talking about through the course of these lessons. There's also the satisfaction of just understanding the material. Again, there's a lot of knowledge that's required, and you'll get some satisfaction out of knowing that and being able to apply this particular knowledge in maybe a job that you already have and be able to expand the breadth of responsibilities that you've got currently. So that's just a little bit on some of the other professions that may be involved with the type of skills that we're going to be talking about here.